Kadosh Boker Tov, Masechet Taanit Daf 25a1. Okay, we were talking about Mishum Kisufa, right? There was something because of the busha. That basically what happened was, if you remember, this was a case of the story that his wife of Rabbi Chanina Mendoza used to heat up the oven every single Erev Shabbat, and she used to put something inside of it in order that it should have, right, some smoke, as if that there's something cooking. Yeah, but there was nothing really cooking there, right? The wife of Rabbi Chanina Mendoza. So says the Gemara, there was nothing really cooking there. So what happened? Because of embarrassment. So one of the bad neighbors, she came to her and she started saying she knew that she had nothing there. So she comes in and she goes, what are you cooking here? What's so? So she comes on the door. Then the wife, she became all embarrassed, the wife of Chanina Mendoza. So she comes into the middle room, and all of a sudden there was a miracle that it was full of bread. And the kneading bucket was full also of bread, was completely full of dough. So she comes and she says, Planita, bring the pala, bring the marda, which is basically the pail, the shovel. Why? Your bread is burning. Amrala, so she comes and she says, right? Oh, I already knew that already. That's exactly where I went. I was going to get that. She also was doing it because she was already known for miracles. Amrale Devitu. Once his wife comes and she tells, right, of Chanina Mendoza, until when are we going to be suffering so much in this world? I didn't think they were suffering. So until when are we going to be suffering so much? Amarla, he comes and he tells her, my Navi, what am I going to do? Pray from the Shemaim, right? That they should come and they should give us something. So Barachame, so Chanina comes and he starts praying, okay? And she comes and he starts praying. It came out like a hand, an image of a hand. Right? And they brought to him they gave him a regel of a shulchan. I mean, they gave him a foot of a table, right? One of these legs of the table. So Chazia bechelma. So now the wife comes and she sees in a dream that she's going. All the tzaddikim, they're going to be eating on something which has 3 feet. Okay, and he's going to be eating up to the trekare on one which has only 2 feet. So Amrale, so she comes and she says, says, what do you want? That we're always going to be like, we're going to be lacking from the shulchan, and we're going to come and we're going to be lacking one leg of the table. Amrale, yeah. So she comes and she says, what am I going to do? We want rachamim, that they should take it away from you. Okay? So they came and they prayed and they took it away. So they came and they took away the leg of the table. So Tana, we said in a braita, there was a bigger miracle at the end than at the beginning. Sometimes miracles happen all the time, right? But that part, yeah, so which means that the bigger miracle was at the end than at the beginning. Yeah? We're on cafe 25, yes. Because usually from the Shemaim they give and they don't take back. Meaning once they give, they don't take it back. So there's a bigger miracle to take it back than the actual giving. Okay? And once happened one Erev Shabbat. Huh? Yeah, that's why it's a bigger miracle, because they usually don't take it back. Once happened one Erev Shabbat. He saw his daughter that she was upset. He tells her, my daughter, why are you upset? She comes, she says, what happened is that I made a mistake and I put a utensil of chometz into the oven instead of shemen. And then I went and I turned on the light of Shabbat. He told his daughter, what do you care? Right? Whoever told the oil to light can tell the vinegar to light. It's the exact same thing. For HaKadosh Baruch Hu, do you think it makes a difference whether it's oil or vinegar? At the end of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does everything. So for what do you want? So Tana, it was lit the entire Shabbat until they used that for Havdalah. Did you hear?
Yeah.
Until they used it for Havdalah. Yeah. So now he says like this. Rav Chanina ben Dosa havulu hanach izeh. Rav Chanina ben Dosa had right a few izim. Yeah, he had goats. Amrule, they went and they told them, the Shchenim told them, Kamav Sedan, right? They're causing us damage, right? Now, Rav Chanina Mendoza knew that it wasn't true because he knew his animals would never eat, right, or damage anybody else's fields. So so he comes and he says, I Kamav Sedan, right? If be'emet they're damaging, nechlinu dube. Yeah, so a dove, right? The dubim, you know what a dove is? Yeah, a bear will come and eat them. Vilo, and if not, kol chada vechada teti leurta duba bekarnaihum. Every single one of them is going to bring a dove with his karnaim. Meaning, if they did not eat anything from your fields, each one of them will bring a bear in their horns. Meaning, they're going to kill the horn, right? Yeah. What? They're going to kill the bear with their horns. Okay. So leorta aiti kol chada vechada duba bekarnaihum. Right? On that same night, each one of them brought a dove in his karnaim. Just to show you the miracle that happened, to show that he was 100% clean. Interesting. I wouldn't have lived in his neighborhood, no? Mm-hmm. Look at the, between the bad neighbor with his wife and now these bad neighbors that they're lying. I'm telling you. Oh.
The one from yesterday where...
Huh?
The one from yesterday also.
Yeah, that was yesterday one. The one with the bad neighbor of yesterday. Each one with the bad neighbors. He had another shechina, the kabanya beita, that they were building a house. Velo matu keshure. And basically the korot of the one wall did not go to the other wall. So she came in front of him, Amrale, and she said, Baniti beti velo kamatu keshure. Right? I built the house and the beams are not getting to the other side. Amarla mashemech, what's your name? Amrale aiku.
I didn't understand what happened with the beams there.
The beams did not go from one side of the wall to the other side of the wall. They were too short. The beams. Yeah. The beams usually have to go from one side to the other side. They were too short.
Okay, I got you.
So he asked her, "What's her name?" Said Aiku. Amar Aiku nimtu keshuraich. Your korot should become longer. Tana, they said, higiu al shiatsu amalekan amalekan. They grew until it was one amma on the outside on one side and one amma on the outside on the other side. That means all of a sudden, miraculously, they both grew on both sides. That they all of a sudden stuck out from each part of the wall. And some people say sinifin, right? That they were like pieces of wood, right? That they all of a sudden got stuck to them. And they made them longer. Sinifim are basically smaller pieces of wood that all of a sudden just miraculously just attached themselves to these beams, and then it became longer. Tanya, we learned to write a Plemo Omer. Plemo says, Ani ra'iti et oto bayit. I saw that house. And it was actually one amat going out from each direction. And they told me, this is a house that Rav Chanina Mendoza, he set it up with the tefillot. I mean, this is the famous house. Okay? So actually, this one was not that bad with the neighbor. The neighbor was just asking for a bracha. Rav Chanina Mendoza, so says the Gemara, 1 second. From where did Rav Chanina Mendoza have goats? He was a poor person. He had nothing. And furthermore, right? An ez is a goat, is a be'emadaka. Be'emadaka, they don't megadel be'emadaka in Eretz Yisrael. So in Chutz Haaretz, for us here in the diaspora, we could have a lot of goats, right? A lot of be'emadaka, right? A lot of be'emot and everything, right? But in Eretz Yisrael, they don't do that. So the question is twofold. First of all, he was very poor, so how does he have even goats? And second of all, be'emadaka, megadlim be'emadaka b'Eretz Yisrael. So Amar Rabbi Pinchas says Rabbi Pinchas, right? There was a story that somebody passed through his house and they left there tarnagolim. So Rav Mendoza found them there. So he told them, don't eat from the betzim. So she had a whole bunch of eggs and tarnagolim. They were causing them a lot of suffering. So he went and he sold them. So then he went and he bought izim. So once it happened that this guy passed by and he tells his friend in front of the house of the Rabbi Chanina Mendoza, do you know that here I once left tarnagolim? So Shamar Rabbi Chanina Mendoza heard it. Amarlo, he says, Yesh lecha b'hem siman? He says, you have a siman? Amarlo, hen, yes. Natata lo siman, he gave us siman, and he gave him the goats instead of the tarnagolim. These are the izim that they brought the bears, right? The bears with their horns, which is actually here. This is actually even a bigger musar. Why? Because you're going to tell me that if they were the animals of Chanina ben Dosan, they weren't going to come and eat from another person's field or damage another person's field. I can understand. These are the ones that they're watching over. They're not even their property. And still, the fact that they're on his possession, he knew that they weren't going to come and going to steal or going to do anything like that. And therefore, he was actually able to say this, and the miracle actually did happen, which I think is something incredible. Next story. Rabbi Lazar ben Pedat. Rabbi Lazar ben Pedat, dechika lemin tatuva. He had a very pressing need, which means he was very, very poor. Ava milta, right? He once did, right? He bloodlet. He took out for blood, because remember, in the olden days, they used to bloodlet. And many times when you take out blood, you have to eat, you have to, right, to get the strength. He had nothing what to eat afterwards. So shakal berat detuma, he took the shen of a shum, the garlic, the teeth of a garlic, which means one of those garlic cloves. Yeah, and what happened? Shadye bepume, and he threw it into his mouth. Chalashli bevenim, so he basically passed out and he fell asleep. Azu rabbanan shulebe, so they went and they came to ask him a question. Chaziu de kabachi v'chayich. All of a sudden, they saw that he was crying. Then he laughed. And then he had a tzutzita denuda. He had like this spark coming out of a chispa, coming out of his forehead. When he woke up, they told him, why did you cry and you start laughing? He said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was sitting with me. And I told him, until when am I going to be mitzvah in this world? Amarli, he says, Elazar beni, you want me to destroy the entire world, right? In order from the beginning to the end? Maybe you're going to be born in a different mazal, in a mazal of good parnasa. So Amri lekameh, I told him, Kule ayefshar. He says, Kol ze, what, you're mukhan for all this, right? To be mu'ofech et kol ha'olam, in order that you could come and, make the world from new. Amri lei, so I told him, Dechayi tfe or dechayina, right? Am I supposed to live longer, or did they pass already the majority of the years? Meaning, what already passed? Is it that I still have to have more years to live, or I've got less years to live because I already lived the majority of them? You already lived the majority of your years, right? Which means a little bit more. It doesn't have to be in the majority, it just means more than 50%. So Amri lekameh, so I told him, Imken lo baina. So if not, I'll suffer. Just leave me.
Otherwise, he would have said, yes, go ahead and
that's a good question. It's a very, very good question. But how do you explain then what's the question then? Well, what was he telling him then? Yeah? Think about it.
I read something.
Yeah? Here it says at the beginning, he was choshesh. He was suspecting to continue living in aniyut, because obviously the aniyut could actually go make him go against his creator. But after he already realized that he did the majority of his life, so then he's not going to suspect it anymore, right? And then that's it. Right? Because there's here it says here that there's a Gemara, right? It says here, Kevin Shavru Rov Shnotav Shel Adam Velo Chata Shuv Veno Choteh. The second a person lived the majority of his life and he didn't sin, so then he won't sin later on for the rest of his life. So therefore, he already thought that okay, don't worry about it. That basically that that's it. That means I'm not going to sin anymore, right? Fine. So Amarli, so he told me, Behai Agra Damat Lo Baina, and the fact that you said that you don't want it. I'm going to bring you in the Olam Haba, I'm going to bring you 13 rivers of persimmon oil, right, which are going to be so clear, like the narot of the Prat and Chideker, right, that you could enjoy yourself. So I said in front of him, what? Only that and that's it? Amali, he says, fine. He says, right, right? And what are we going to do with your friends? Yeah? So he comes and he says, what am I going to do with your friends? Amniles, I told him, am I asking from someone which does not have? Meaning like this, if it's somebody that cannot give more, and I'm going to ask them, so then that's one thing. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're the Almighty. You could give everything that you want. So therefore, I'm not coming and I'm not asking you for something that you cannot do. So he comes and he says, Machyan baskutla patai. So right, ikabi malach. Right. So the malach came and he hit me with his finger on my forehead, and that's what came out the nitzot. So basically, one more time, when he saw that the majority of his life passed through, so that's when he what? That's when he cried. When he saw all the good things that he was going to get, he smiled. But then he told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yeah, but that's it, right? I want more. Yeah. So then he said, what? What am I going to leave over for your friends? So he says, what? I'm asking somebody that can't. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're the Almighty. You could do everything. So one day hit him on the forehead, and boom, came out the spark from his forehead. Okay. Right? The arrows are being shot to you. Okay, fine. Let's go next. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina gazar Taanit. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina, he went and he made a Taanit because it wasn't raining. Velo ata mitra, and it was not raining. So Amalei, so the people of the city told him, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi gazar Taanit mitra. He says, 1 second, but Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, he made a Taanit, and his tefillot were accepted. So what's going on? And this is against Rabbi Chama bar Chanina. Amalei, he told them, Ha'ana har baleva. This is for me, and this is Bar Levi, right? Amrule, right? Teneti. So they told to Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi that he should come. Nikaven datin, and we should have kavanah. If shar the tavret sibura libaihu, maybe that's going to break that sibur's heart, and they're going to make them do teshuvah datamitra. Again, they prayed, and it was not raining. Amar lehu, Rabbi Chama told the sibur, nicha lechu sheyavo matar b'shvilenu. Right? Do you guys? Is it good for you that the rain should come in our zechut? Amrulei hen, they said yes. Amar rekia, kasi panaich. Right? Rekia, cover yourself with clouds. Lo yikasu. Right? They didn't, what's it called? They didn't cover themselves. Amar, kama azin pene rakia shenenu nichlaim levakashat hatzibur. He said, look how azut the rakia has. Right? Look what the chutzpah, the rakia has. The what? They're not covering themselves for the bakashat tzibur. So then it started raining. Levi gazar ta'anit. Levi once made a ta'anit because it wasn't raining, and it wasn't raining. He said in front of them, Ribono shel olam, alita v'yashavta b'marom. What? You distance yourself from us. You have no mercy, right, on your children. Ata mitra, it came down rain, the itla, but he became solea, became lame. Why? Because he said that against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said that he's not having mercy on the children. That's called klape, right? He's metiach tvarim klape mala, which means that he's saying something against Hashem. So lame, that he cannot walk properly. Handicapped. Yeah. Amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, Lo'olam al yatiach adam dvarim klape mala. A person should never speak against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shari adam gadol yatiach dvarim klape mala v'yitzlah. Somebody went and he did speak against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he became lame. Manu is that Levi? So says the Gemara, Vehagar Maleh. This is what caused him to become lame. Veha Levi achve kida kamed Rabbi Vitla. I thought it was because he showed kida in front of Levi, and that's why he became kida, which he became lame. Which means kida is basically when they used to go on their thumbs, and they used to bow down, and they used to support their entire body, right? When they were bowing down and things like that. So he thought that was the reason why he became lame. So says the Gemara, Ha Vehagar Maleh. You're right. It was both. You understand what it means? It was both. Both of them was the cause. Cause and effect, both of them were the cause. Okay? Another story with coming down rain. Rabbi Chia bar Liliana. Chia bar Luliani. Shaminu lahana anene de kamni. So he heard Ananim that were saying to each other, Neti v'netve maya be'amon Moav. They were going to come and bring water in Amon Moav. Amar lefanav. So says Rabbi Chia, right in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono shel olam. כשנתת תורה לעמך ישראל, חזרת על כל אומות העולם ולא קיבלוה, ועכשיו אתה נותן להם מטר? Says 1 second, when you wanted to give the Torah, you went on every single nation, and they didn't want to accept the Torah. And now you're going to give them rain? Sheduhacha, right? Bring them here. And he put them over here in Eretz Yisrael, and that's where it started raining. Dada Shebechia Baluliane. My dichtiv, so Rav Chia bar Leilnik was coming and saying, what's written in the pasuk? Tzadik katamar yifrach. Right, that tzaddik is going to sprout forth like a date tree, right, like a cedar wood, like an erez, a cedar tree, but Lebanon in the Lebanon is going to grow. Im ne'mar tamar, if it's written in tamar, so why is it written erez? And if it's written the erez, so why is it written tamar? to decide, is it a date tree or a cedar tree? So he says, Ilu ne'emar tamar v'lo ne'emar erez, ma tamar, I would have just said the tamar, kafei amud bet, 25b. En gizo machlif, right? The ikaro is not machlif, which means it does not rejuvenate itself to start like the trunk. It does not rejuvenate itself to start again new plantings. Af tzaddik, chas v'shalom gizo machlif. I would think also that tzaddik, there's not going to be any zecher from him afterwards, and he's not even going to come back after tchiyat hamatim. That's why it says, you're right, that's why it says erez, that the erez gizo machlif. The trunk does rejuvenate itself. Ilu ne'emar bar erez, if it's only going to be written the erez, velo ne'emar tamar, and it wasn't written the tamar, haiti, when I would have just said, ma erez eno seperot, the cedar tree does not take any fruits, does not make any fruits. So to the tzaddik chas v'shalom does not make any fruits, right? Which means he's not going to get reward in the next world. The kach ne'emar tamar, that's why it says tamar, but the tamar does make the dates, ne'emar erez, and it says also the cedar tree. So basically it says both. So says the Gemara, the erez gizo machlif, a cedar wood, right? The cedar tree, it's gizo machlif, it changes its roots. We learned in the Braita, if somebody's going to take a tree from his friend, he's going to purchase a tree from his friend in order to cut it down, just for the wood. You pick it up from the karka, one tefach, okay? The kotzetz, and then you cut, okay, from that which is above the tefach, in order that it could sprout forth again. So besadana shikma, when we're talking about sadana shikma, which is basically a te'ena, right, which is like a fig tree, shne tfachim, has to be 2 tfachim. B'tulata shikma, when we're talking about the etz shikma, that it never gets destroyed. How do you translate the sycamore? Sycamore, okay. Shlosha tvachim, 3 tvachim. Bakanim v'gefanim, we're talking about reeds and the grapes. Minapkak ulmala, from the bottom part upwards, from the kesher tachton onwards, right? B'dekalim v'arazim, with a dekel, with palm trees and with cedar trees. Chofel lemata, you have to actually dig downwards. Umesharesh, right? And you have to take out the shorashim. Because it's not going to be gozo machlif. So therefore, how could he come and he says, right, that gezayer is machlif? Here it says mefurash that the dekel and the eres and gizo machlif. So how did you tell me that it was gizo machlif? So says the Gemara, what are we dealing with b'shamin azizim with other types of cedar trees? Just like Rav Huna, there's 10 types of cedar trees. Shneimar says in a pasuk, etem b'midbar eres, number 1, shita 2, hadas 3, et shemen 4, right? Berosh 5, tidar 6, so the Zhu Yachtav is 7, and then so says Tanu Rabbanan, we learned on the right. So now basically there, even though we didn't mention all the 10, but the pasuk there was telling there were 10 different types of cedar trees. Okay, now we're going on to another story, right, to do with Ta'aniot because of Gishamim, lacking of rain again. Okay, it says Gemara as follows. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned on the right. Masechet Rabbi Eliezer, there was a story with Rabbi Eliezer. Shegazar 13 ta'aniot on the tzibur, that he made 13 ta'aniot on the tzibur. Right? Why? Because it didn't rain. So how many do you do on the tzibur? 13. Velo yardu geshamim, it didn't rain. Ba'charonam, the 13th one, the last one, yitchilu tzibur latzet, they started coming out of the Bet Knesset. Amar lahem, he told them, tikantem kvarim latzmechem. Did you guys dig your own graves? Yeah? Ga'u kolam bivchiyah. So everyone started crying. Huh? Yeah, he made them afraid. He said, wake up. What happened? They all started crying. Boom. Yardu geshamim. It started raining. That's when it started raining. Shuma Seb Rabbi Eliezer, another story with Rabbi Eliezer. She'ara lifnei teva, that he went down in front of the teva and he said, 24 brachot, and he wasn't answered. Yarad Rabbi Kiva acharav amar Avinu Malkeinu menechelata. Rabbi Kiva just went down and he said, Avinu Malkeinu, en lanu menechelata. There's no king like you. Right? Avinu Malkeinu manach rachem aleinu, that for you have mercy on us. Yardu geshamim, and it started raining. So what happened? The rabbis were saying, like, what's going on over here? Rabbi Akiva, he just has to say 2 phrases, right? 2 Avinu Malkeinus, and boom, it starts raining. And this one is just coming in 24 berachot, and then and wallow. What's going on over here? Yeah?
That's a good rabbi.
Yeah? Yeah, so the bat kol came out and said, it's not because one of them is more greater than the other one. Rabbi Akiva was ma'avir midotav. He would be selkeah. You know what selkeah means? He would forgo. He wouldn't be so strict, right? But Rabbi Eliezer was not. So because of that, he wasn't ma'avir midotav. So because of that, that's why he says over here, okay, there's a whole question over here about, there's a lot of iyun about exactly why this, that. Rabbi Eliezer was a talmid of Bet Shammai. It wasn't, there was, he had to It was doing it b'chavana. It wasn't just stop. You understand? But no. Okay. So Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. Okay. Matayu geshamim yordim v'atzibur poskim tanitam. So he said, until when is it going to go down rain, and the tzibur, right, are still going to be, they're going to have to stop fasting. So it says over here, Kim lo berech macharesha. So it says to the omek, to the depth of the telem, which is made through the macharesha. When they're going to come and they're going to plow, that's when they're going to do it. These words are me. Chachamim say, b'chareva tefach. Right, when it's going to be dry, it's going to be until the tefach. Bebenonit, when it's going to be in karka, which is benonit, tfachaim, 2 tfachim. Ba'avuda, when it's going to be a field which is plowed, shosha tfachim, 3 tfachim. Okay, so that's what I mean. Basically, we're talking about how many tfachim does have to go in order to say, you know what, we stop fasting. So Tanya, we learned in Braita, Mishum Elazar says, En lecha tefach min mal she'en tohom yotze likato shosha tfachim. There's no tefach which comes down, right? That the tohom comes up 3 tfachim. So says the Gemara, Tanya, we thought it was only tfachim, not 3 tfachim, only 2 tefachs. So says the Gemara, that's not a question. It all depends whether the land was already worked upon once or not. If it's the charusha, which means that it's not so big, so for emeton, we'll only go to it for tefachim. But if it's en avuda, which means, right, that to do with that it was never actually worked upon, okay, so therefore he says, it's going to come out 3 tfachim from the tehom. Okay, Amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, kishemenaschin et hamayim bechag, when they used to do nisuch hamayim in chag, the water libations on the chag of Sukkot, tehom omelech havero, one tehom is going to come and say to its other friend, Abba memecha, bring up your waters, shekol shnei re'im, because I hear the 2 different nesachim, the 2 different libations. One of them is the wine libation and the water libation. Right, the nesachim, niske yain and niske mayim. Ani shomea nishbuchim is being thrown on the mizbeach. Shneimar tehom el tehom koreh lekol tzinorecha. Right, when it says tehom el tehom koreh lekol tzinorecha, which is very interesting, because this is in the chapter of Tehillim of Sukkot, Membet, which is of Sukkot. Tehom el tehom koreh lekol tzinorecha. Right, so he says over here, right, that what's going to happen is one tehom is calling to its friend. Amar Rabba comes and he says, I saw this plowing, right? Oh, it says over here that really it's a malach, which is in charge of the rain, that his name is Ridia. Dami le'egla uprita sifrate. It's like an egel, right? Like a calf. And his lips are separated, like as if he's always laughing. He's between the bottom, right, the bottom tehom and the upper tehom. To the upper one, he's going to say chashor memecha, spill your waters. To the bottom one, he says abba memecha, bring up your waters. Shneimar bezez in a pasuk. Hanitzanim niru va'aretz. Right? Fine. Then it says, okay, Hayumi tanin v'yardu geshamim kodem hanetzachama. Right? If right now he was fasting and it went down the rain before the netzachama, so Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita, Hayumi tanin v'yardu lehem geshamim kodem hanetzachama. If they were fasting and it came down the geshamim before the netzachama, lo yashlimu. They shouldn't finish the Taanit. Le'achar hanetzachama, after the netzachama, yashlimu, they should finish the Taanit. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Right? These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yudah says, yeah, hold on one second. So we learned in the Braita when they used to fast and it would start raining before the Netzachama, they would not finish the Taanit. After the Netzachama, they would finish the Taanit. Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yudah says before the Netzachama, before Chatzot, they wouldn't finish. After Chatzot, they would finish. Rabbi Yosef says before the 9th hour in the day, they wouldn't finish the Taanit. After the 9th hour of the day, they would finish the Taanit. But that's what they found in Achav Melech Yisrael. She ta'ana that he fasted mikesha sha'ot ulmala, from 9 hours and onwards. Shneimar says the pasuk, hara'ita ki nichna Achav. Did you see that Achav was humbled? So Rabbi Yudah Nesiah gazat Taanit. Once Rabbi Yudah Nesiah, he did a Taanit. Yadu lahem geshamim, and it went down the geshamim. Nachar netzachama, after the netzachama. Savar lishni, you wanted to finish it off. Amalei Rabbi Yami, says Rabbi Yami, kol mechatzot. Right? I thought we learned before and after chatzot. Shemuel HaKatan gazat Taanit. Once Shemuel HaKatan also made a Taanit. Yadu lahem geshamim, and it started raining before netzachama. He started saying, Kol hakavod, it's because of us. You know, we're good. We started doing this. So Amar lahem, he comes and he says, no, I'm going to give you a mashal. Lema davar domeh le'eved shemevakesh pras merabo. You want a servant and he wants a price from his rabbi. Amar lahem, he says, Tinulo, give it to him. But I don't want to hear him. Meaning, I don't want to hear the guy. Just give it to him whatever he wants. Just keep him quiet. Keep his mouth shut. I don't want to hear him. Right? Exactly. Just give it to him. That's what happens. You understand? Okay. Next, Shuv Shemuel HaKatan Gazar Tanita. Another story with Shemuel HaKatan that he made a Tani v'yardu lהם geshmin lachar shkia techama. And he started reading after Shekia. So they thought that it was good for them again. Again, he gave them a palei. Again, he gave them to them on the head. Amar lהם Shemuel lo sheva shel tzibur. It's not because of that. The opposite. A person that is asking a prize from his master. And he told them, Amtinu lo. Wait until he's mitztaer, right? And until he starts, suffering, and only afterwards you give it to him. So basically, they didn't give it to you right away because they wanted you to suffer a little bit. They wanted you to, they're not going to give it to you easy. So you suffer, you did, and then, boom, then you do it. So when is the Shevach HaTzibur then for Shmuel HaKatan? And when it came too early, he told them off. When it came too late, he told them off. Meaning it was never good for him. So then when is the Shevach Shel Tzibur? So Amar Mashiv Ruach U'Neshav Zika Amar Morid Geshem Latamita. He says immediately. If you say the words Mashiv Ruach and immediately the Ruach starts blowing, you say Morid Geshem and immediately it starts raining, that's the Shevach of Tzibur. That's the real Shevach of Tzibur. Other than that, no Shevach of Tzibur.
זה אותו שמואל של הפלפל דחריפתא?
They once made a Taanit Lod. The name Alel Mikara. So then what happened was that this was before Chatzot. And then they went out and they started reading Halel Gadol. So says the Gemara, Alel Mikara. Why didn't they say Halel Gadol at the beginning? Before they went to their houses, right? Before to eat. So Abaye v'Rava ben Tzimra lefi shenomrim Halel ela nefesh seve'ah ve'al keres minah. You only say Halel when you're full, right? When you have a full stomach and everything. But as we say, Noten lechem l'chol basar ki lo lam chasto. So therefore, after you ate, you drank. Now you're going to say Halel Gadol. Now you're going to really say, right, the true Halel. Okay.
Rabbi,
so it says
this Halel is not the Halel.
So says the Gemara, any is it so? That Papa Ikla lebekrin shtada begovar. Right? He went to the Bet Knesset of Begovar. Exat ani medulim geshamim ad chatzot. Tamar Halel, and there he said Halel Gadol. Ve'achar kach achlu v'shatu. Then they went, right, and they paid them, right? So he comes and he says, Shane b'nei mechuza d'shchiche behu shichrut. He says, no, you know what was different? What's different is that the b'nei mechuza is different because, right, the wine and the shichrut are common, exactly, which means that if they would go home and eat and drink, they would just get drunk, they would that. So because of that, he passed, no, it's better to first say the Halel and afterwards to go eat and drink. But if they would be able to control themselves, so then it would be better the other way. Hadran alach, seder time,
next week, no?
yeah? Yeah, B'ezrat Hashem.